In this video, we're going to be talking all about bankruptcy. What happens if you think you might need to declare bankruptcy at some point in the next few months, next few years? How do you protect yourself? And how do you come out of it in great shape? Coming up next. Hi everybody, my name is Dee Burks and this is Retirement Rescue, where we talk about how to make money, save money, and live well in retirement. Well, with the current financial crisis and the fact that we're all now in quarantine, one of the questions that I've gotten a couple of times from business owners are, what happens if you end up declaring bankruptcy? There are a lot of businesses that are closed. A lot of those business owners are small mom and pop businesses, and this may end up being the end of their business. How do they deal with that? Well, as some of them know, this happened to me in the last financial crisis. In 08, 09, when the market dropped, business dropped, I ended up having to declare bankruptcy myself. But here it is, barely 10 years later, and I've paid all my debts. My credit rating is back up in the 700s. I own my house outright. I own my car outright. You can come out of a financial crisis and even, yes, a bankruptcy in great shape. That's why bankruptcy is there. It allows you to protect yourself and recover from financial issues. Now, before we even get started, I'm going to say I'm not a bankruptcy attorney. I've been through it myself. But your experience is going to be different. So you need to call up a bankruptcy attorney and talk to them. Most of them will talk to you for free. But basically, there are numerous types of bankruptcies. There's Chapter 7, Chapter 11, Chapter 13. The chapters refer to the particular law that covers it. Every state is slightly different, but there are some broad things that apply across the board. Now, when it happened to me, I waited probably 2 years to even think about declaring bankruptcy because I was raised to pay my bills. I wanted to pay my bills. I did everything I could to pay my bills. And I'm sure you're in the same boat. But there are things that happen, especially business-wise, that you can't anticipate. The coronavirus thing is one of those situations. No one could have anticipated, even at Christmas time, that it was going to be like this, or we were going to have this kind of issue, or businesses were going to be closed for an extended period of time. Well, now that it's happened, there are things you have to adjust to and deal with. One of the hardest things for a business owner, or for anyone really, even if you've just lost your job and you don't own a business, one of the hardest things to adjust to quickly is your new reality. But you've got to do that. If you put it off trying to keep things afloat, cashing out everything you have, you could end up costing yourself in the long run. Now, there are numerous types of bankruptcy, and your bankruptcy attorney can go over those with you when they do your consultation. There are business bankruptcies, there are personal bankruptcies, there are bankruptcies that basically discharge most of your debts if you're in special situations. A lot of the bankruptcy laws actually changed. In 2010, 2011, there were millions and millions of Americans declaring bankruptcy. They had been through the financial recession and they just couldn't do it anymore. They'd lost jobs, they couldn't find work, their unemployment finally ran out. They just couldn't keep things afloat. That will happen again. It will happen to a lot of people. And so what you need to be doing right now is really preparing yourself. Doesn't mean you're going to declare bankruptcy. But in order to make good financial decisions, you need to be sure you have all the information you need. Bankruptcy exists to protect you from getting so far underwater with creditors that you will never recover. That's why it exists. It gives you a chance to dig yourself out and have a future. Now, one of the things that's important to realize is bankruptcy is not a character issue, okay? Bankruptcy is a math issue. It's one of the things that my bankruptcy attorney told me the first day. He's like, stop apologizing, stop feeling bad. This is not a character issue. Things happen that were unexpected. You've dealt with them as much as you can, and now it's time for you to deal with reality, and that's a math issue. And that made it so much easier. Because once you let go of all those emotions, you're able to really focus on, okay, how do we fix this? Everybody wants things to improve. And the fastest and best way to get things to improve is to address what is. You have to put down on paper what all your debts are and figure out what your income is and look at your long-term probability. Unfortunately, what most people do is they just try to keep things afloat. They cash out this, they pull out of their retirement, they borrow money from relatives, they try and sell everything they have. They just do everything they can to keep it afloat. And I understand that, but that's not really addressing the issue, because long term, you're going to run out of options. And when you're running around doing those things, you may be actually hurting yourself if you have to end up and declare bankruptcy later. So the first thing you need to do is go to your bankruptcy attorney. In order for him to advise you on which one is going to apply to you, you need to be sure and give him all the information you have. Now, during that consultation, he'll give you a list of everything you need to declare a bankruptcy. And it's a big list. It is a year's worth of financial statements and credit card statements and every statement you have on every debt you have. But that's really, really important. And so he'll give you that list to go home and gather. And then if you decide to declare bankruptcy, you'll have it all together in a little packet. Bankruptcy is a process, and because it goes through the court, it's not a really quick process. But the quicker you can get everything together, the better it'll be. Now let's talk a little bit about my experience. I've already talked on some of these videos about how when the last financial crisis hit, my business went from doing almost $1 million in 1 year to $30,000 the next year, and $30,000 the next year. And it was that third year that I realized, okay, this is not going to be sustainable. This is not going to be something that I can do. I had about $250,000 worth of debt that I was carrying and trying to pay. And I mean, just imagine trying to do that on $30,000. And most of that debt was IRS debt. It was IRS debt that had accumulated from those really good years that were followed by 2 really bad years. Now, it's easy to beat yourself up and say, oh gosh, if I'd just done things differently when things were good. There's no way you could have known something terrible was going to crush your business or eliminate your job or whatever. There's no way you could have known. So no reason to beat yourself up. Yes, could you do things better? Absolutely. I've done things better since then. But at the time, you didn't know. So don't beat yourself up. There are a few really important things to be aware of if you think you might end up in bankruptcy. Number one, the court is going to go back and look at least a year at all of your finances, your business finances, your personal finances, everything. Now, they're really going to be interested in what happened from the time the issue happened, this financial crisis happened, forward. They realized prior to that, you were, going on vacation at Christmas or doing whatever, you had no idea. So you didn't realize there was going to be an issue. Once the crisis happens, they will really evaluate how you have spent every dime. So there are a few really important don'ts. Don't take a bunch of cash out because you won't have any proof of where you spent it. Don't take your stimulus check and go out and buy a new car and then declare bankruptcy. Yeah, they're not going to allow that. You got to realize the court doesn't have to allow you to get bankruptcy protection, because that's what it really is protecting you from your creditors really coming after you, and it's protecting you from your creditors adding interest and penalties to the point you'll never pay that debt off. That's what it's protecting you from. And the court does not have to allow you to have bankruptcy protection, especially if they look at your finances and feel like you've done some things that were ill-advised, knowing you were about to go into bankruptcy. You spent money in a ridiculous way, you went out and bought a new car, that kind of thing. They don't like that. So be aware. You want to be able to prove where your money went and that you were trying your best to pay your bills, doing the best you could, and this is the situation. Another don't is, do not cash out your qualified retirement account to pay your bills. Qualified retirement account is an employer protected account, generally speaking, but it could also be like an IRA, a 401k, a 403b. Now, in this last stimulus bill, they're going to allow people now to take out up to $100,000. I'm doing another video on why that's a bad idea no matter what your situation. But if you are thinking you might end up in bankruptcy even a year from now, do not cash out anything in that qualified retirement fund. That is one of the few assets that have protection from creditors. But the minute you cash out some of that money, the money you cash out, no protection. If you can come out of a bankruptcy and still have some kind of retirement account, that is better than 99% of people will do. And you should be able to do that because it is a protected account. So don't be cashing that account out thinking, well, I'm just trying to keep things afloat. Odds are, if you're just trying to keep things afloat, you'll still end up in bankruptcy. And then you'll also have no retirement. A lot of us are in that boat now. That is why the median, the most common retirement account for people between 50 and 69 only has $63,000 in it. Because we cashed out our retirement accounts trying to save our butts in 08, 09, 2010, 2011, when millions of people ended up declaring bankruptcy anyway and also lost their retirement. Now, when I declared bankruptcy, my payment was, I believe it was $2,400 a month. Huge. It was huge. And honestly, I wasn't quite sure I could swing it. But you know what I did? I figured out a way. I did more freelancing. My business did improve. You know, after you come out of a financial crisis, business will pick up again. And I did not declare a business bankruptcy. I declared a personal one. So my business could continue. So I continued to write books. I continued to freelance. I did more and more of it. Yes, I worked myself to death. But you know what? When you're able to make that payment every month and you see those balances coming down, that is a huge thing. It is a big relief. And one of the main things bankruptcy protection does for you, it keeps those interest rates low. It keeps creditors from continuing to charge penalties, even the IRS. It kind of puts a little cap on what they can do, and you're able to make progress. You all know, especially if you're like paying a credit card, if you're making a minimum payment, you're not making any progress. And what happens is if you put that into bankruptcy, yes, you'll probably still have to pay it back, but you won't be paying 22% interest. One of the biggest reasons people have a real problem with declaring bankruptcy is they have this assumption that, well, if I declare bankruptcy, oh my gosh, my credit will be ruined. I won't be able to do anything after that. Not true. Normally, if you declare bankruptcy and you make your payments within about 2 to 3 years, sometimes even sooner, you'll be able to get a credit card again. You'll be able to, now it doesn't mean you should use it, but you'll be able to start rebuilding your credit. And it will come back once you come out of bankruptcy. It is not a forever thing. It takes about 7 years to drop off the credit report. Not a big deal. And you can still get a loan. I got 2 mortgages after I declared bankruptcy. So don't think that it's going to prevent you from living your life. It's not. It's absolutely not. Now, the first year or 2 may be tough, and it will be tough. But over time, you can start rebuilding everything. Everything will come back, and you will have made significant progress. Now, there are some people who suggest, well, you know, I'll just use a credit consolidation company. I don't want to go through the court. I don't want to. Okay, let's talk about that for a sec. Bad idea. Yes, the court charges you a little bit, but these companies charge you a huge amount to go through them. There have also been, especially in the last financial crisis, there were numerous companies that took people's money and didn't pay the debts. Did not pay the debts. And that's what you're paying them to do. Or they didn't pay the debts on time. So their credit was trashed anyway. Not to mention the fact that even though these companies tell you, hey, we'll lower your interest rates, we'll work with the IRS, complete BS. They do not have the power that a bankruptcy court has. They absolutely do not. And a bankruptcy court can protect you legally, financially, every way possible. And these companies give you no protection. I mean, what are you going to do? Sue them with the money you don't have? No. So please don't do that. Before you do that, go and talk to a bankruptcy attorney. They can give you all the details. They can give you the straight information. And if you decide that's where you want to go, they can help you immediately. Now, let's just say, yeah, but you've just lost your job. It's only been a few weeks right now as we're filming this. This is in March. It's only been a few weeks. It may not be that bad. If there is one regret I have, I wish that I had declared bankruptcy the minute I saw there was not going to be a solvent solution. What do I mean by that? Well, I could tell my expenses paying all these debts were significantly higher than my income was or was going to be for the projected future. The minute I realized that, I wish I had done it. It would have been 2 years earlier I could have recovered, 2 years faster, and I would be 2 years further down the road. So one of the things that I really encourage people to do, go have the conversation. Whether you use that information today or you wait maybe 6 months, 8 months and see how it goes, and then you decide maybe this is something you want to look at, get the information first. Get good information. Don't talk to other people. Don't listen to anecdotal information, because all I can tell you was my experience, and it was a good one. My experience was a good one, which is kind of weird to say when you're talking about bankruptcy, but it was. I got my debts paid. I got my act together, and that feels great. And now that we're in the second financial crisis, huge financial crisis of my life, guess what? It's not a crisis, because I was able to prepare myself. And really, that's what you want to do. You may be in crisis right now, but it's not going to last forever. And you'll be able to prepare yourself faster and better for the next one. So get out there right now, be calling your bankruptcy attorneys, and get the information you need to make good, educated decisions.